This program is sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events. Hello, welcome to Conversation with Augustus, and today we are talking about the collapse of the Papal States. Do you know that Papal States and the papacy are not the same thing? Join me as we discuss what happened 150 years ago. But before that, kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel, Conversation with Augustus, and this program is also live on www.radioangelus.com. This program comes to you this and every Wednesday. Thank you so much for appearing on the Conversation with Augustus. And today we are talking about the end of the papacy, which happened some 150 years ago. And to help us discuss this issue is the Procurator General for the Society of St. Columban's, and Father is resident in Rome. He is Monsignor Robert Macaulay. Monsignor, you're most welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Augustus.
So please, can you tell us when did the end of the papacy began?
Well, if I can just clarify, it wasn't the end of the papacy. The papacy continues until the end of the world, because our Lord Jesus Christ said to St. Peter, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I shall build my church, and the gates of hell shall never prevail." So there's a difference between the papacy, the role of Peter continued in the Pope, and the Papal States. And what we're talking about here is the ending of the Papal States. That took place 150 years ago on the 20th of September 1870. So which is last Sunday, we marked the 150th anniversary of that. And I, with Augustus, we went to the actual place in the Roman wall where this occurred, where the forces of the Kingdom of Savoy broke into the city of Rome, and that was the end of the Papal States. This particular place in the Roman walls, and these are the old Roman walls going back to the Roman emperors, which the popes and others have restored and built, and they still actually surround the city of Rome. The particular point where this break-in took place is only 5 minutes walk from the Columban house. It wasn't a big battle. There were 88 Italian soldiers killed during it, and 18 of the members of the papal forces. So yes, certainly the death of everyone is important, but from the point of view of wars and as they go, it wasn't a big number. Immediately the Pope moved into the Vatican, to St. Peter's, and it was there that he remained, as we call him, the prisoner of the Vatican, or the prisoner in the Vatican, until an agreement was arrived with the Italian state on the 11th of February 1929. Now these Papal States, what are they? What were they? They were a territory that was actually ruled by the Pope. He wasn't in that particular way. He was the head of the Catholic Church throughout the world, but he was the ruler, shall we say, the king of the Papal States. How did they emerge? As you know, up until 312 AD, the Christians, Catholics throughout the Roman Empire were persecuted. And under the Roman Emperor Constantine in 313, Christians received religious freedom. And the emperor favoured the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, other bishops throughout the empire. The freedom of the church was for the benefit of the spread of the gospel and the spread of the faith. But what happened? Gradually, the Roman Empire collapsed. 410 AD was the invasion of the, what they call the barbarians, into Rome. And this was the first time ever that Rome was invaded. And over the next 200 years, the Roman Empire in Western Europe collapsed. The government collapsed, the organization of the state collapsed, food supplies collapsed, water supplies collapsed, everything collapsed. So who was there to take over? It was the bishops in the cities. And in Rome, it was the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, who stepped into the political, economic and social vacuum to give some leadership to the people that were in Rome. And I suppose the key person perhaps in this, the most significant person to begin this, was Pope Gregory the Great in, if I give you a roundabout date, 600 AD, about 1,500 years ago. What was the point of the Pope stepping in? Was it to take over power for the church? No. It was to lead the people, assist the people, guide the people who are in such distress. And I think that's what many bishops in many dioceses are still doing throughout the world at the present time. What happened? Other armies came and started to seek to take control over Rome, where the Pope was. In the 8th century, what happened? The Franks in Gaul, in France, strong Catholics, ensured that the Pope would have political control over the central part of Italy. And why was that? To protect him in his role as the successor of St. Peter. And that was really the beginning of the Papal States. Why did they need the independence in the Papal States? The reason was to ensure that they were not under the political control or pressure of other kings of other nations. Because the Pope is the Pope. He is the spiritual head, the spiritual father of all Catholics. So he needed to have that sense of independence. But what happens when people have political power? They like to have political power.
We'll continue with that. We'll look at the political power aspect of it. But I would want to find out, could you tell us the territory of the Papal States, where it started from and where it ended?
It really stretched across the central part of Italy. If you look at the map of Italy and just north of Naples and draw a line right across from coast to coast, and perhaps about 200 kilometers north and draw a line from coast to coast, they were the Papal States. But really, it was the central part of Italy.
That means it was very big than what we see today.
Yes, it really was. It really was. There's no doubt about it. But what happened then? In the 1848, 1850, the Italian people, it was hard to talk about Italian people because there wasn't an Italy at that time. There were many, many small kingdoms and duchies and principalities in Italy. and gradually emerged a sense that we live in Italy, so we should be a united country. And this sense of union centered around the King of Savoy, which is based in Turin. Gradually, from the 1840s onwards, 1850s, 1860s, gradually the armies of the King of Savoy moved up and down through Italy, and the nation gradually came in behind the King of Savoy. But the King of Savoy realized that Turin is Turin, but if you talk about Italy, the center of Italy is Rome, and they realized that the capital of a united Italy had to be Rome. And that's why the attack on the Papal States, or on the city of Rome, took place on the 20th of September 1870. The forces of the King of Savoy then moved into Rome, took over. The king came down, was proclaimed, Victor Emmanuel I was proclaimed as the King of Italy, and the Pope went to St. Peter's and remained inside the Vatican and didn't come out at all. Was it a good thing for Italy, or was it a bad thing for Italy? Who knows? But whatever it is, a united Italy emerged with a capital city called Rome. Before that, it was this city and that province and that area and this district, all separate and not united. So we finally have now, from 1870, the united country of Italy with the capital in Rome. But when one looks at it, that happened in 1870. Within 50 years, Mussolini and the fascists had taken over Italy. So the vision of a free Italy had been replaced very, very quickly by a dictator. And the King of Italy, the Kingdom of Italy, finished in 1946 after the Second World War, because the people decided then, we don't want a king, we don't want a dictator, we want a democracy. Was the collapse of the Papal States a good thing for the Catholic Church or a bad thing for the Catholic Church?
Definitely we would go into that, whether it's a good thing for the Catholic Church or a bad thing. But I would want to find out, is that the reason why the Holy Father is staying close to St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican?
Well, because he realized that he was the successor of St. Peter, and St. Peter is buried in St. Peter's. And I think he realized that even though many of these people opposing him were Masons, they were anti-Catholic, whatever it was, their blood was Catholic. And he knew that they would not come in and attack St. Peter's. So he felt secure there.
That was a very smart move. But let me ask, you did mention that he was not, when the attack was happening, that was when he moved to the St. Peter's Basilica. So there, where was he staying first? Where was the residence from the papacy?
A little further down from where the army broke in through the walls, maybe 10 minutes walk, 15 minutes walk, is the Quirinale, which was another palace of the Pope in Rome. And the reason why it was at that time, it was in a country area of Rome. September was still rather warm, rather hot. And this was in the countryside. It's now surrounded by other buildings, but it was up on a hill, and that's where the Pope was in residence. So very, very quickly he saw what was happening, and he moved down to St. Peter's.
Okay, so thank you very much. Now let's just dive into the collapse of it was a good thing or a bad thing.
It was definitely a good thing. Because if we understand the reason why, as I said earlier, the Papal States, not the papacy, the Papal States emerged was to ensure that the Holy Father, the Pope, as the successor of St. Peter, had independence, that he would not be controlled by this king or that country or this political group or that power group, that he would always be independent to lead all Catholics of whatever nation they belong to. Where the Holy Father is now is he resides within the Vatican City-State, the smallest country in the world. It's about the size of 2 golf courses, which is not very big at all. But what it is, the Holy Father in the Vatican City-State is totally and completely independent. In Rome, when you go down to the Vatican and you step over the boundary, and you can easily walk in there, you're actually moving into another country, a totally separate country, with its own political ruler, who is the Pope, with its own stamps and coins and police, totally separate. There's 160 countries around the world who have diplomatic representatives to the Holy See at the Vatican, where the Pope is. So the Pope is totally and completely independent within the Vatican. Thanks be to God, he doesn't have to worry now in 2020 about the streets of Rome, the ecological situation of Rome, the police situation in Rome, the sewerage problems in Rome, the water situation. He doesn't have to worry about any of that. That's all the problems, and there are big problems there, that the Italian state, the Italian government, has to worry about.
Okay. Having made mention of whether it is good or whether it is bad or a blessing or not for the end of the Papal States, I would want to find out, assuming the Papal State was still in force, would it have been a blessing also, looking at the challenges facing the country?
No, because Italy at that time needed to be a united country. You can't have nowadays, you can't have a country the size of Italy, and Italy is not a very big country, even though it's got 75 million people. It's really quite a small country. But you can't have a province and a city and a village as separate nations. It needed, when you look now in the context of world politics and world international arrangements, Italy needs to be a united, independent, single country. And that's what we've got. But finally, I think it's important to note that when the agreement was signed between the papacy, between the Pope and the Kingdom of Italy on the 11th of February 1929, the papacy, the Holy See, the Vatican, received a large amount of compensation in money, in property, in stocks, in shares, for all of the property that was lost. And this was invested, and this is what we call the patrimony of the Holy See, and this enables the Vatican in many ways to keep the operations of the Holy See running.
So before we end this conversation on the end of the Papal States, I would want to find out, how was the agreement reached with the Church? How were they able to come together and have an agreement to make sure that the Vatican still remains a state on its own within the Church? How was that agreement
The Italian government, the government of the Kingdom of Italy, which was actually led at that time by Mussolini, they realized that public opinion in so many countries throughout the world where Catholics were was very, very anti-Italian, because the Pope was not free. And the Italian government realized an agreement had to be entered into with the Pope to resolve the situation. So private conversations were held. I've actually showed Augustus in the building in Rome, outside the Vatican, where these took place. And over a period of months, a year, these conversations, very, very secret conversations, took place until they came up with what we call a concordat. And a concordat is a treaty. So it was a treaty between the Kingdom of Italy and the Vatican, the Holy See.
Thank you so much, Monsignor.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for watching, but please kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just click on that red subscribe button and on the bell and receive notification of new videos. And also tell a friend to tell a friend. Thank you so much for watching the conversation with Augustus. Adios. This program was sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events.